What's up, guys? My name is Zack, and for the last 7 days, I've been driving the 2024 Nissan Rogue SL all-wheel drive. Up front is a 1.5-liter turbocharged inline 3-cylinder, and down below is an Xtronic CVT. Now, I am super excited to be making this video because I've spent the last 7 days driving this car. I have a very good feel for it. I've done over 600 miles in it, and I have a lot of good thoughts, some not so great, and I'm excited to give you some good buying advice throughout this video. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that inline 3-cylinder under the hood. Well, we're not starting off on the best foot. I'm not a big fan of this engine. Nissan debuted this engine for the 2022 model year, and although it does make 201 horsepower, which is more horsepower than the outgoing 2.5-liter that it replaced, it had a little bit of a rocky start with some reliability issues. Driving it is fine. I don't overly love it. I don't hate it with a passion. It's just kind of there. I can pass people on the highway, which I guess is all I can ask for. Like I said, paired to it is a CVT. Now, I, in the past, have not been a big fan of CVTs, especially from Nissan. However, they are tuning them and changing them, and this actually did get another update in 2022 for the refresh, where they're a lot smoother, and so I don't mind them as much. I still am not their #1 fan. I'm not a cheerleader or shaking pom-poms, but it's a fine transmission and it'll do the job. Last but not least, this particular Nissan Rogue is all-wheel drive, as the name suggests. However, you can still find them in front-wheel drive if that's something that you want, or if you look into a lower trim level. How does it feel to drive the Nissan Rogue SL all-wheel drive? Well, like I said, it is a little bit underpowered here and there, and sometimes the transmission isn't doing exactly what I wanted, but overall, the ride quality is good. The steering isn't too heavy or too light, and when you do put it into sport mode, you can squeeze a couple extra ponies out of it, but don't expect the world. Fuel economy! I've been averaging about 29.8 miles to the gallon, which is almost right on brand with what Nissan expects around town of about 30, 35 on the highway, and when I did drive on the highway, I did pump those numbers up a little bit. So that is a benefit of the 3-cylinder. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. And the interior as a whole is the crown jewel of the new Nissan Rogue. Comparing it to vehicles in its segment like the Mazda CX-5, the Toyota RAV4, and the Honda CR-V, it is my personal opinion that this is the best laid out interior of the bunch. So let's talk about why. In front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster that is fairly customizable. You could change the gauges around and you could get a whole bunch of info that you're seeing here on the screen now, and I really like this. I also really liked this gauge cluster when it debuted in 2021. So I've always been a big fan of it, and now driving it for a full week, I'm an even bigger fan of it. On the steering wheel, on the left, we have our volume, skip track, and selectors for that gauge cluster screen, and off to the right, we have our adaptive cruise control options. The overall steering wheel does look and feel nice. It's leather stitched. It has paddle shifters around the back, and I really like the new Nissan logo. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, our steering assist on and off, gauge dimmer switch, auto start stop off, and rear tailgate release. On the door, we have 2 levels of memory seats, lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving into the center, we do get our infotainment system. So a couple interesting things to note here. First of all, this does have Google Assistant built into it, which is really nice to see. However, they don't make you pick between Google Assistant and Apple CarPlay. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and so I like that you have a bunch of different options. I think the display is really clear, very easy to see and read, and I like that a lot. Here is the backup cameras, and we also have a 360 camera. We have several different views that we could take a look at, which is all very nice, and we could get this really cool 3D exterior view of the Rogue. Not the highest quality, but it's very cool that it gets it at all, and I'm very happy to see that. Overall, I think the infotainment display is a very nice part of this interior. Down below that, we do have some physical buttons for the brightness, skip track, volume, power, and camera. And down below, we have 2 climate control vents with the hazard switch and the climate controls. dual zone climate, which is great to see, heated seats and heated steering wheel, auto, things like that. Nothing really too crazy beyond it. However, if you do move up to the platinum trim level, that will have cooled seats as well. Down below, we have two USB-C inputs for either charging or for media input if you don't want to use the wireless system, the start-stop button, and a 12-volt outlet. And then we have a wireless charger down below, which does light up at night, which is very, very cool to see. Adds a little bit of ambiance to the interior. Moving up the center console, off to the left, we have the shifter. The shifter is a little funky. You have this side button, and then you move it forward for reverse, back for drive, park is a button, but I've gotten pretty used to shifters like this, so I didn't mind it too much. And down below that, we do have the power parking brake and brake hold. But off to the right, we do have cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the 2024 Nissan Rogue SL all-wheel drive. And it wants to go in, but at the end of the day, it just is a little too tight. And so, unfortunately, it fails the big friggin' bottle test. Below the cup holder, we do have our drive modes. So we have 5 drive modes here in the Nissan Rogue, which is off-road, snow, auto, eco, and sport. So really, really cool that you do get these settings from Nissan, and you can adjust them as you please. Then we do have a center console with nothing really of interest in there. You get a little tiny shelf, but that's about it. And then we'll talk about the seats. The seats are pretty comfortable. I have liked my time in them, and I've spent a lot of time in them, as the car will say, 18 hours in them. Heated, power, memory, all that I can ask for. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2024 Nissan Rogue SL all-wheel drive, and a couple of things to note. First of all, this is my driving position, which is a little bit further back than I would say the normal person. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me. My head is not hitting the ceiling. A lot better rear seat space than the Mazda CX-5. That's a big win. I do have little sunshades over here as well. Head's not hitting the ceiling. 2 climate vents down here, as well as my own temperature control, which gets its own digital readout. Nissan did not have to include that, and yet they did. And 2 USB-C chargers. So the Nissan Rogue is very up to date with its charging appliances. No USB-A in this vehicle. Fold down the center armrest. We do have 2 cup holders in here. The seats have airbags, and I get to enjoy this really nice moon roof over my head. Altogether, this is a really nice backseat space and just reinforces that this interior is quite wonderful. And I'm very, very happy to see that. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Right around the back of the Nissan Rogue SL all-wheel drive, and this has one of my favorite modern features where you can put your foot under the rear bumper and it will open up. So if your hands are full, this is an awesome, awesome feature to have. Once we are back here, couple of things to note. You can pull this up for some extra storage, or just, you know, fully remove it for even more storage and things like that. And of course you can do that with the panel behind it as well. You can kind of give it like a false floor, raise it up, because when the seats are flat, the seats are level with this upper part, not the lower part. But very cool that they allow you to do that. I don't seem to get a 12-volt outlet. I'm wondering if that's what that would be in the platinum trim level, because there is one trim level above this SL all-wheel drive, and that is the platinum, which this is not. Some little cubby space down to the left and right, but that's pretty much it. That is the rear trunk space of the Nissan Rogue SL all-wheel drive. Button up here, I can either lock it or hit that once and power down like that. Nice, smooth, and collected. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I like the look of this Rogue. It is finished in deep ocean blue pearl with a super black roof, and I think it is pretty handsome. I do like the color. However, Nissan does offer a lot of really, really interesting and cool colors, so I'd highly recommend taking a walk through one of their dealerships and picking out your favorite color, because I think there are a lot of them. However, with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think, having driven the Nissan Rogue for the last 7 days? Well, it's fine. I don't like the drivetrain. I much rather prefer the earlier 4-cylinder engines that were offered in previous Rogues, as to this new 3-cylinder turbo. I just worry about the reliability and longevity of something that has variable compression and a turbocharger, and it's only a 3-cylinder pulling along this giant vehicle. Now, I'm sure that Nissan has done their research, and they have said that they are working to improve the engine, but it's just not my cup of tea. Where this car really exceeds and excels is the interior space. I really like this light gray interior. Now, you can also get it with a black interior, but I think this light gray does wonders for it. I like how everything is laid out. Every button is where I would want it to be. The climate controls are physical buttons. I don't have to hunt through a screen for them. The steering wheel is nice and thin and friendly to use. Cup holders are right here, drive modes. It's all laid out really well, and that has been my biggest talking point. I don't love driving it, but I love being in the Nissan Rogue. And I do firmly believe that this is a better laid out, more ergonomic, more pleasing to the eye interior than any of its competitors. And I've been very lucky to drive all of this car's competitors. Like I said, the CX-5 I've driven 10 or 15 of. The RAV4, I've had 3 press loans for different RAV4s in the last year. The CR-V, I've driven every single generation of. And I still believe that this is a better interior than those cars. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Nissan for letting me borrow their Nissan Rogue for the last 7 days. They are absolutely wonderful to work with. I always look forward to working with Nissan. Just a really down-to-earth team down there in Nashville. Steve and Steven are 2 of the best individuals I've met in the industry, and I look forward to working with them more in the future. Huge thank you to G. Schmidt, of course, and the Midwestern Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.